Let's fly Scandinavian Airlines in business class to Los Angeles. We'll cover the lounge, the seat, the bed, the food, and the service today on Markus Travels. This trip begins at Copenhagen Airport in Denmark. The scheduled duration is 11 hours and 40 minutes and we'll be flying on an Airbus A330. To skip directly to the boarding or the meals, use the chapter markings on the timeline below the video. Welcome to Copenhagen Airport. I had a quick 15-minute walk over from the airport hotel through rain, wind and hail, so I'm feeling completely miserable. But I'm in good spirits. Let's check into this SAS flight over to Los Angeles. That was not a great check-in experience. Now let's walk over to the priority security. So what went wrong? I tried to check in online before I left from Switzerland, but it didn't work. But it did allow me to enter my US immigration information. I checked into this flight the night before at Zurich, where I was connecting from. But already at Zurich, they had to re-enter my US arrival information. And here in Copenhagen, they had to do it a third time. The rest of this video will be more positive. This is the first video of 2 about Scandinavian Airlines in business class. Here I'm going to focus on the bright sides, but in the second video I will explain why I will never fly this airline again. But for now, we got good vibes here at Copenhagen. At this airport there are 2 priority security lines. To the right is the CPH Express Fast Track, and that's the wrong one. Once I got there, the agent explained to me that I need to go to the SAS Fast Track instead. To get there, you have to take a left after the escalator. So we're going back. There was no line at SAS Fast Track, and I was through security in no time. Right after security, you can turn left to get to the lounge. You don't even have to go through the duty-free shops. I paid for this trip myself, and I neither sought nor received permission to film. That way, you get an authentic and non-sponsored travel review. Welcome to my channel, Markus Travels. SAS has 2 lounges here in Copenhagen. At the entrance, you can turn left to go into the business class lounge, which occupies most of the bottom floor. Or you can turn right for the Star Gold lounge, and that's where I was heading. One difference is that the business class lounge has showers, but the Gold lounge does not. There's a good mix of amenities in the SAS Gold lounge. We have a breakfast buffet, a salad bar, but not too many hot food items except for soups. Welcome to the SAS Gold lounge here at Copenhagen Airport. I made myself a little breakfast here consisting of a very traditional Swedish breakfast dish, the leverpastej, which is like a liver pate. Sounds disgusting perhaps, but I love it. The alcohol selection is remarkably small, and in fact, in the morning they don't even have any hard liquor available. Some standout features of this lounge include the barista-operated espresso bar, these guest offices, and a daylight booster zone. Apparently, it's a Scandinavian tradition, but I grew up in Sweden and I have never seen anybody use this kind of contraption. The views from the lounge are of the bus station outside and the inside of the terminal. What's missing in the Gold Lounge is a good napping area. These chairs are comfy, but they're right next to the window with no blackout curtains. The Gold Lounge and the Business Class Lounge in this area are the only SAS lounges at Copenhagen Airport. Many other airports would have a separate lounge in the Non-Schengen area after passport control, but that's not the case here in Copenhagen. The walk to those Non-Schengen gates can be quite long, so make sure that you budget enough time for this. The signs in the terminal generally do indicate how long the walk to each gate area is. Now we're through passport control in the new expansion to the terminal. I made it to the gate area around Echo 135, and boarding should start in approximately 10 minutes. One thing I like is that there's an outdoor section here with binoculars, but it was raining so I couldn't partake. There is also a children's playground right next to the gate, and I think this is really nicely designed in this very Scandinavian style. In this gate area there are no food or beverage outlets, but there is a 7-Eleven vending machine with some tables where you can enjoy your snack or your drink. There's also charging ports here. Let's board this Airbus A330. When I booked this ticket, it was going to be an A350 instead, but something changed. Today I'm in boarding group 1. The cabin has a staggered seating layout. All window seats are single seats. I chose seat 6 Alpha because there's a console between me and the aisle for a little bit more privacy. The odd-numbered seats are much more exposed to the aisle. As I arrive on the seat, I find the pillow, the blanket, and the matching amenity kit.
Welcome aboard this SAS flight over to Los Angeles. The welcome drinks are already served. Cheers.
On my right-hand side is a table and a shelf, and everything I might need is right there on that shelf. This includes the headphones, the water bottle, and the remote. And those things are not hidden away under some lids like some other seat designs. This is a very efficient, very sleek design, and you don't have to search for anything. We'll do a more complete seat tour once we're airborne.
We are about 5 minutes from the scheduled departure time. It looks like we're still boarding, so I don't think we'll be exactly on time today. However, the first impression in this cabin is really positive. The seat looks fresh. There's a bigger than normal bottle of water at my seat. The entertainment system looks really nice, although it's currently turned off. So overall, good first impression. One thing I do notice that the little mini aisle into the seat itself is a little bit on the narrow side. My foot got stuck there a couple of times already, but I'm thinking that it's a price worth paying for getting that extra level of privacy by having the console at the aisle and sitting right next to the window. Oh yeah, one more note. They haven't switched on the engines yet, which means that there is actually no noise in the cabin at this stage. Oftentimes when I record these clips after I've sat down, there's so much noise that sometimes the audio quality is not excellent. I'm thinking this is maybe an eco-friendly practice by SAS, or maybe they're still fueling.
There was a delay in departure today. The storm I mentioned in the beginning had delayed the third pilot who was flying in from Oslo, Norway. And at this point the captain did something wonderful. He said, because I have some extra time, let me tell you about the route. And he took the time to describe it in detail. He mentioned that we would be flying up between Sweden and Norway, then go north of Iceland, over Greenland, and enter the US over Montana, and then pass by Las Vegas. And he also mentioned that because we're so far north, actually we'll be going up to the 75th parallel, even though this is a daytime flight, we'll pass through the Arctic night. This flight took place on December 22nd, and the sun doesn't really rise at all in this part of the world. So we will see a sunrise of sorts when we cross over from Canada into the United States. I don't know why I was so impressed by this announcement. Somehow it felt more personal. It felt like he was making the best of the delay situation. I can't really explain why I liked it so much. SAS plays 2 safety videos. One is a short one pretty closely after you board, and then there's the normal safety video on departure. That's quite special. I haven't seen any other airlines do that. Does anybody know what this blinking stop sign is for? Let me know in the comments.
Looks like all the last minute details have been sorted out. We are ready to go.
At this point, the rain has just stopped and we taxi out to the runway. As we take off, let's say a few words about this airline. One of its names is SAS. In Swedish, it's generally pronounced SAS. That initialism stands for Scandinavian Airlines System, but it's also sometimes branded as just Scandinavian Airlines. SAS is the flag carrier of Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. On this flight, we had crew members from all 3 countries. But if you fly SAS on short-haul routes, it's a completely different airline. You will have crews from low-cost countries, and I made a separate video about that. Check out the link in the description below. Let's have a closer look at the seat. In front of me is a pocket, which turns out to be perfect for small things like wallets, passports, and camera batteries. One thing I should have put in there was my lens cap, which ended up flying down the aisle on landing. So do make sure that all small loose articles are safely in this pocket. There is also an extremely reflective monitor for the in-flight entertainment. This is basically a mirror. The legroom in this seat is very spacious. In the fully upright mode, I cannot reach the footwell.
Now let's check out the level of privacy in the fully upright seat position. On my left-hand side, there's only the window. And on this side, I can see the little barrier on my right-hand side, but I can actually see one other person opposite the aisle. So the privacy is okay, but not earth-shattering.
Here you can see the seat layout of the cabin and the fact that the seats are not tall enough to go over the heads of the other passengers. The seat controls are on my right-hand side. Here we also find the half-liter water bottle. On the shelf there is this circular indentation, ostensibly for a water bottle, but this big bottle does not fit in here. Luckily, that water bottle has its own nook in the shelf. The seat also features a 3-point belt. Fun fact, the modern 3-point seat belt found in cars today was invented in Sweden. After takeoff, the meal service begins with hot towels. And there is something different about this towel compared to every other airline. It's much more coarse in its structure. I kind of like it. It is certainly different. And I used it to clean one of the legs of my tripod. When this flight took place, it was around Christmas time. The crew were wearing festive decorations in their hair, like Santa hats or Christmas-themed headbands. The tray table deploys out of the console with the push of this button. It can be moved back and forth with good range, but you cannot exit the seat when the table is deployed. At this time, the crew provided tablecloths for us. Let's have a look at today's menu, which was handed out already before takeoff. The drink service begins with warm cashews. Speaking of nuts, there was an announcement that one of the passengers on this flight was extremely allergic to peanuts. So the crew asked everybody to not eat peanuts on this flight, and they even mentioned that SAS does not serve peanuts on any of its flights.
Let's start with a cocktail. This is the Forest Spring, apparently an award-winning cocktail, according to the menu. Well, they didn't say which award.
This drink, the Forest Spring, consists of whiskey, ringy apple juice, and ginger ale. The cocktail is not fantastic, but the ginger ale by itself was delicious. This was a really nice brand. Next were served bread and butter, and this is no ordinary butter. You can see here that this circular piece of butter has a coating of herbs, and that turned out to be incredibly delicious. We also get a full spread of cutlery. For my starter, I picked the flame-torched salmon from the Faroe Islands with marinated trout roe, white miso dressing, and pickled daikon. This was served with a side salad in this cup. The crew actually prepared it tableside by combining greens from one big bowl and chopped root vegetables from another. I think this is a nice premium touch. Overall, this was a great starter. For my main course, I picked the braised beef burnt ends with the black pepper and rosemary cream sauce, potato gratin, fried endive, and Brussels sprouts with caramelized hazelnuts. This was also super yummy. Before dessert, the crew had a pretty confusing procedure. They asked if I wanted coffee, and I said yes please, but they only gave me an empty cup. Apparently, the procedure was that they placed the empty cup there to indicate that you are interested in a hot drink. And then they come around later, only after I finished most of my dessert, and served the coffee. I noted that other passengers were also confused about this particular procedure. For the dessert, I picked the ice cream bar and the cheese platter. Specifically, quote, the organic ice cream lolly by Hansen Ease dipped in Friesholm chocolate, unquote. And the Måneskär and efterglöd cheese from Arla Unica with green tomato marmalade from Hed Escalante, Sweden. This meal was outstanding. It brought together Scandinavian flavors in a really nice and balanced way. Maybe I'm biased because I'm from Sweden, but this was not your typical generic Western European food that you would find on Air Canada, Lufthansa or Swiss, for example. This had some character. I am going to nitpick on two things though. Ice cream bar would have been the more common wording instead of ice cream lolly, and I'm sure welfare chicken is not a word in English. Let's have a look at the in-flight entertainment system, and after that we'll do the lavatory tour and check out the bed. The headphones are stored on this hook in the shelf. They are over-the-ear headphones, which I don't really like. I prefer on-ear headphones. But the closed design does result in good passive noise cancellation. And when you plug them in, there is also a small amount of active noise cancellation. You can also use your own headphones with the system. There's a jack in front of you. There was one curious limitation when I used the built-in headphones. Announcements from the crew were not played through them. I had to take off the headphones in order to hear the announcements. The selection of content on the in-flight entertainment system is pretty standard. We have movies, we have TV shows, then we have SAS TV, which are different programs about the airline. There's music, the kids zone, and games as well. If you click into any of these categories, you can see both how many items there are in total and how many items are in each genre. The system also has an in-flight menu, and I had high hopes for this one. I imagined that I would be able to order the same things that are on the printed menu. But alas, this is just a list of drinks with some more information about each, but you cannot order anything through here. The system also features two cameras, one pointing down and one pointing forward. This I like. The final item on the IFE menu is the feedback form. The system also features an air show, but it's not one of those modern movable maps. This just cycles through some standard views. During this flight, I had a big problem with my screen. I was trying to watch the movie Artificial Intelligence, but at least a dozen times through that movie, the playhead jumped between different points in the movie. For example, it would randomly jump an hour forward and then 40 minutes back. This happened both when the movie was playing and when it was paused. I was somehow able to finish this movie, but this was not a great experience, having to rewind a dozen times. Before we go to bed, let's have a look at the lavatories on board. All of the business class lavatories are located behind row 8. None of them are in the front of the cabin. I mostly used the one on the right-hand side of the aircraft. This is a very basic lavatory. There is really only one additional amenity compared to a standard economy class lavatory, and it's these disinfectant wipes. This, I think, is pretty poor for business class. Even the intra-European Swiss flight that I took when I arrived at Copenhagen had some extra amenities in their bathroom. Specifically, they had a face mist and lotion. In this SAS lavatory, in theory, there's both paper towels and facial tissues. But when I recorded this, the tissues had been empty since the first time I used this lavatory before takeoff. Above the full-length mirror, we have the world's highest coat hook. This is not a very impressive lavatory, but at least there's a view of that Arctic twilight. The lavatory on the left side of the aircraft is bigger, but there are no additional amenities here either. Not even in this vase where a more premium airline would have placed a flower. But at least there's a bit more space and there's these big sturdy bars to hold on to. One of the fondest memories I have of flying SAS business class since I flew it the first time years and years ago is the snack bar. And I'm happy to see that it's still there. Here you can grab yourself some sandwiches, some candy, or some other snacks. There's water, soda, beer, wine, and coffee. But the real reason this snack bar resonates so strongly with me is that they have these little bags of Gott och blandat. This is a Swedish candy that I grew up with. Especially the pieces of salty licorice. That's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I love this candy mix. I got myself a Polarbröd flatbread filled with cheese. Now let's have a look at the bed. The seat controls are on my right hand side. The full controls are here at the end of the shelf, and then you have more limited controls on the edge. There are 3 presets: fully upright, this kind of middle relaxed position, and then the full bed mode. As soon as you press any of these buttons, the mood light automatically comes on. This mood light eliminates the shelf and in theory the footwell as well, but on this particular aircraft it wasn't working that well. You can also lower the armrest next to the window to make some more space when you have it in bed mode. But for some inexplicable reason, it doesn't go low enough to be flush with the bed. You get the pillow and the comforter from the Swedish bed brand Dux, and that is also the brand of the amenity kit. Regular viewers will know that I usually don't open these amenity kits, instead I take them with me home, and I'll be happy to make them available for selected viewers. In the bed mode, the sleeping surface is horizontal, although it's not perfectly smooth. You can feel the different parts of the seat mechanism. A mattress pad would have really helped here. The footwell is decent in size, but male passengers may feel a bit cramped in the family jewels area. I was able to sleep around 3 hours on this, in theory, daytime flight, although we didn't see much of the sun. Before arrival, a second meal is served.
We are 1 hour 45 minutes from landing, and it's time for the second meal service, which means a second hot towel. Now that I think of it, it's actually not hot, it's just wet. But it is that nice coarse structure.
On offer here are a few open-faced sandwiches that is a very Danish thing. I picked the, let's see if I can say this in one breath, the salmon tartare with pickled zucchini and chervil, sweet mustard cream cheese, and dill marinated cucumber on rye bread. With this, I had an apple juice, a cranberry juice, and a sparkling water. The meal also came with a plate of fresh fruits. It was all really fresh and tasty, and it ended with a pair of pralines. But there are 2 things I didn't like about the second meal. The hard bread of the sandwich really showed how dull these knives are, to the point of useless. And I'm also very confused, what was the plate on the left for?
The second meal service is over. We're about 1 hour from landing in Los Angeles.
As we prepare for landing, I need to wear my 3-point seatbelt again. I don't know Los Angeles that well, but I do love the game series Grand Theft Auto. And in that game world, the city of San Andreas is based on Los Angeles. For me, it was amazing to see some of the great landmarks of San Andreas in real life here over Los Angeles. We take a turn over the water and then land at LAX from the west. I will give you my recommendation in just a moment. If you got value from the video, please hit the like button, and there's other ways to support in the description below as well. As you heard, I had mostly positive things to say about this flight. The seat is a pretty modern, average business class seat with direct aisle access for everybody, which I like. The shelf design is pretty clever, and the food was outstanding. I would actually rate this SAS food just below ANA. It was that good. But click or tap the screen right here for a more negative take on this product and why I will never fly SAS again. That video is the return flight on the same route back to Copenhagen. Thank you very much for watching Markus Travels today, and I will see you in the next video.